welcome and thank you for attending this Lunch and Learn session organised in collaboration between the Knowledge and Library Services at NCIC and CLIC, the Cumbria Learning and Improvement Collaborative. My name is Ashley Eaton and I am from CLIC, and today we are joined by Jacqui McBurnie, who is the chair of the NHS England Menopause Network, and she will be presenting to us menopause and the workplace. So these Lunch and Learns are designed to be a relaxed and informal space for health and social care staff to come together and share experiences whilst also eating your lunch. And I will now pass over to Jacqui.
Thank you. Thank you all for inviting me today. It's a great topic. There's loads of energy behind it. We should be talking about it in the workplace. So let's have a run through of why menopause is relevant at work and what that means for us, both as colleagues, as people maybe going through it, as managers, and as support to others. And we'll do a bit of myth busting. Hopefully we can take some questions, but given we're on a really good half an hour session, maybe people want to contact me after or join the network after as well. So that's perfectly fine. So let's talk about a definition. Be really clear, the menopause, I like to think about it as 3 distinct phases, and the menopause is actually just one day. So it's one day, it's not a whole raft of days and stages we go through. It's in a natural menopause, one day when periods have stopped for 12 consecutive months. And that's because of hormone changes. It's because your ovaries stop maturing eggs, and estrogen and progesterone as your main 2 hormones, although there's 3, we'll come to that, reduce. And that's what happens in a natural menopause. Surgically, of course, we can have a menopause brought on, both surgical or medical. Things like chemotherapy and things like a hysterectomy, that's very different, and that can sometimes be immediate. So various different things. The time after that day is the postmenopause, and you can have symptoms for any combination your body decides, for any length of time your body decides to. So it's not none of us are average. There are averages out there, but that can also, your racial background can be a factor on how long your symptoms start and last for. So that's quite an interesting point of interest as well. The perimenopause is usually the time we start to see things change. And it's not just about, do you have hot flushes or not? It's not just about, do you feel exhausted? And it's not just about changes in your monthly cycle or periods. It's all of those. And it's any combination of about 40 common symptoms we all get very individually at this time. Some of us, of course, don't actually know and don't realise. We just think we're exhausted, we're going through so much, we're juggling everything. But this is usually something we look back on and we think, I think it started about then. So it is poorly understood. We think about it as being hot flushes. The media shows us white women with a fan. You know, there's any number of combinations, and it is grumpiness, it is moodiness, and it is change, and it also necessarily isn't. So it's not just about the common kind of things. So why is it relevant at work? And we'll come on to some of the stats about the NHS. We will probably know anyway. But we can't just sign off sick and say, I'll pop back in 5 years and I feel better. I'm feeling rubbish. Don't know how I'm going to navigate this. I've got lots to learn, lots of decisions to make, and I've got so much on. I've got brain fog. We can't. We bring ourselves to work. We bring this with us. And that's why we need to be mindful of what's going on. And we don't want to over medicalize it, but really for some people, it is quite debilitating. And we also need to give ourselves a break and our colleagues a break just to help through this phase, and we can all be as well as we can be at work and stay at work for as long as we want to. So the data is pretty stark. We know that we've got it's just under 80% of people recognising or declaring as women in the NHS. Now, the bit I mentioned before was that it's about ovaries. It's not a gender thing, and it's not an age thing. So if you're born with ovaries and you happen to not recognise as female or recognise as a woman, then you will have a menopause. Some people manage that with hormones, and some don't necessarily manage that with hormones. So that's even more sensitive. So the first thing is, it's not about hot flushes, and it's not about gender, and it's not about age. The common age is about 45 to 64, but we also know that people that have an early menopause, you can be in your teens, and that obviously has significant issues for people navigating that journey and being well and safe, and all of the other aspects that will bring. So we know there's more of us in work. We know we work longer. Our generations before just didn't. So we're all working now and trying to juggle caring responsibilities or children, teenagers at the same time. We might have organisational reshuffles every now and again. We all know how that is. We've got the pressures of work, trying to apply for jobs, trying to navigate this different world that we've just been through. And that will all bring an impact into, each and every one of us in different ways. So it's a big requirement. It's important. We also know fact. We have issues with our clinical staff in the NHS. We have significant recruitment gaps. My Royal College, the Royal College of Nursing, recognises that. They recognise it in the Royal College of Midwives, and obviously the medical world as well. Not just those, obviously, we have other professional groups as well. And we also know we can't just replace staff like for like. So even if we lost a proportion of our team at 55, even if we can recruit, that massive experience, that organisational knowledge just isn't there yet. It's not built up. So it's really good business sense to connect with the group that we know are in this cohort of staff typically, and value that, invest in that, and retain that group, because that is the mentorship, the coaching, and let's say the ambition that younger staff might aspire to. And obviously, apart from that, the last point, we have a legal requirement. The Equality Act states on age and gender, so menopause crosses that, but recent cases have also tested the discrimination in terms of disability. We know that menopause doesn't come with an end date. So that's been tested too, and that tribunal was actually successful for the individual that brought it. So what will we see at work, and what's HRT for? We'll touch a little bit on this. I always caveat this with I am a registered nurse, but my expertise is not in menopause. So I would always direct people to their clinician, their clinical expert, and their own issues are very unique to them. So we can't cover all of the detailed aspects necessarily. Although I also know things I never ever wanted to know about menopause. So HRT covers largely the estrogen and progesterone our cycles would normally have produced in the ovaries and circulated round to create a 28-day cycle. We also know that we have 4 times more testosterone in our bodies than receptors than we do for estrogen at perimenopause, and people don't often connect that testosterone is really important for our bodies too. So that's often described as the third wheel when people don't feel energized or lifted or functioning as well. So testosterone is something that we also talk about length in the Menopause Network. So HRT is aiming to replace the hormones that ovaries don't produce. And the common symptoms and the ones we see at work obviously are fatigue, but exhaustion. Even if you've slept, and a lot of us have trouble with that, even if you've slept, you feel exhausted. Hot flushes, concentration, brain fog, anxiety when it wasn't a thing before, being worried about being worried, but then perhaps that's exacerbated because you've had an awful few nights sleep and your concentration shot and you're doing a presentation or you've got an interview. That can all exacerbate some of the symptoms already there. So things like that are really important at work, and you need tools and techniques at work, like using your diary to prompt you, like using lists, taking regular breaks to be able to combat some of that. So some of that's covered as well in here, in Dr. Newson offers a website. Some of you will have heard about the Balance app that's free to download. There's advice in there. So HRT is estrogen and progesterone to combat the symptoms of perimenopause. And thank you to our network members. I just wanted to reiterate that it does go beyond those common ones I've flushed out there. So things like feeling like a sudden electric shock, itchy skin, nauseating pain, emotional ups and downs, things like that, you know, anxiety. So it is really quite subjective. And then again, a nod back to the fact that racial background is a thing in menopause. So Black women, according to research, report more severe hot flushes and for longer, for instance, than someone of a different racial heritage. So really quite important when we're looking at media images and how to connect that, because it's often important to recognise people that look like us and to share experiences that actually resonate with us or our culture or our belief system. So a little bit again, just to pick up some information there about HRT. People can get the slides, obviously they'll be circulated, but a little bit there. Many of you will have seen the Davina McCall programme, so I've put on there, there's actually on Davina's own information, her routine around her HRT. So she takes an HRT estrogen patch, tops that up with a gel, and uses a pea-sized amount of testosterone, and you can see that. And people often think, you know, what's the amount for me? How do I know I'm getting the right amount? Well, the answer is your body will tell you if your symptoms feel better and you feel more stable and more in control. So that's a really good guide, but that takes a while to build and kind of work through how best to apply the medication, but also to evaluate that regularly. How do I feel? Do things feel like they're lifting? And obviously there are a significant number of people that don't want to take HRT, and will explore natural, homeopathic, and maybe focus on sport and diet and other ways like yoga to be able to alleviate symptoms. But I have obviously done a lot of research around HRT, and I'm quite an advocate for HRT in that regard. So again, back to testosterone. What's the function of testosterone? And it is actually prescribed in women for low libido, but most of us in the network would say that's the least of my worries. I've got all these other things, really. Does it help with those? And these are the things here that testosterone can help with. And there is now a growing number of GPs that are actually more confident with prescribing testosterone for women to help with all of these things. So I think about this as a triad of kind of support to be able to equip you to be well in your 70s and 80s. And obviously that's a very individual choice with everything. but it's about what do I want for me and how can I live as best I can and function as best I can through this stage of life. How do I want to manage it? So just in summary, we have an NHS England menopause policy. That's really helpful. It outlines what we can expect and it indicates some of the tools and techniques as well. And that's a great place to go and kind of look at that, become familiar with it. So regular breaks, being able to talk, events like this and the leadership in terms of this event, just fantastic. You know, well done for you guys to pull this together and share this openly. Use the diary, have it alert you if you're in an office-based, admin-based type of role, and that can prompt you to do certain actions, and focus on the things to do as opposed to responding to emails, and you'll feel like you've achieved things there. And schedule in emails after, schedule in times through the day for emails, but achieve some of the things the goals that you want to achieve. Try quiet spaces if you need to be office based. If you have the luxury at home of a quiet space, that can be useful for concentration lapses or brain fog and break things down. Signposting, obviously, I can recommend the network. Everybody in the NHS is welcome for that. And then obviously think about flexible working. How do you need to be your best? If you've had no sleep, do you need to switch your day around a little bit so that you can work obviously often a cooler evening time and pick things up later? And again, no insensitive comments. It's very individual. Comparing your sister's menopause or your own with a colleague is just not helpful. We're all different, and it just really isn't. It's real backward step. It's not really helpful to do that. And then walking meetings, get some sunlight into your brain. That will help you sleep on a night, help you feel like you've done something for yourself during the day as well. So I've popped some details on there for the Menopause Network inbox, and my own email is there.
Thank you so much, Jacqui. Fantastic topic. Really, as we said, needs to be discussed. Thank you ever so much, everybody.